point, we're going to ask the candidates to move the 3 microphones we have up there down, and we're going to thank our congressional candidates for their patience. They've been waiting quite a bit of time now. Now is their turn. They will have quite a bit of time now. And what I think I'll do this time, I intend, after the introductions, to ask 3 questions from the chamber as well, and then we'll get out to your audience questions. And I think in this instance, I'll allow each of the candidates, it'll be my choice, to answer first, and we'll kind of go from there. So it's not going to be a set order with the 3 of you when it comes to the questions. So anyhow, starting off with your opening remarks, we have Martin Babinek. He is the Reform Party and Upstate Jobs Party candidate. Mr. Babinek.
Thank you. I'll also use the prerogative to stand, not only because I can't see everyone sitting, but I needed to stretch. And I don't know about you, but you've been very patient as an audience. And while I'm giving my thank you to our hosts and to you, let's stand up and stretch and give a round of applause to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. A round of applause for the Chamber. Right? And also, all of our elected officials who work so hard on your behalf. We have many of them on the stage here, so a round of applause for our elected officials working hard on your behalf. Thank you. And mostly to you, the audience, for being patient, turning out tonight to learn more about your candidates and the important decisions you have to make on November 8th. With that, I'd like to begin my remarks. I'm not a politician. I'm a business guy, and I grew up here in central New York, small town east of Utica. Working class family. My dad worked in factories as an electrician, and together he and my mom raised 7 children. And after local schools and college, I had the good fortune in college, meeting my wife Krista, who's here with me. And we've been married 36 years and traveled around the world. So I worked as a civilian for the Navy for 10 years. With the last stop happened to be in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that's where we started a company together. This was a company that began, like most people starting businesses, not with a desire to grow a big company, but just to start a small business. And we didn't take a single dollar ever of government money for loans, grants, or any special deals, but rather we worked hard, and because the nature of the business involves when we started in 1988, a new industry that no one ever heard of before, the idea of helping small companies with all their headaches of being an employer, we ended up going on a path where we were starting to grow very fast, and we raised money from outside investors, which is difficult to do, especially in a service kind of business. But we grew the business, got it to a stage where we really did have a good management team, the business was doing well, and that's when we decided to move our family back to my hometown of Little Falls, New York, just east of Utica. And that was in 1999. And as a result of that, I had hoped I was only going to be doing a commute back and forth between East Coast and West for a couple years, but it ended up being a 10-year commute while I'm still running my company. And when I was doing all those flights, going back and forth, I got to thinking about, why is it we have so many of our best talent, our children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, why are we watching them go away so often? And oftentimes it's because they don't see the opportunities in new industries. And so drawing on the lessons that I learned in Silicon Valley, I started a nonprofit in upstate New York called Upstate Venture Connect, which has as its mission addressing the very problem on why we don't see many of these new industry companies, because we have all the right ingredients. We've got smart people. We've got communities with a lot of assets and great quality of life. We do a lot of research. All these things are great. But the reason people don't start companies in new industries here is because it's too hard for them to get connected to the right opportunities, the right people and resources they need. So my nonprofit, Upstate Venture Connect, has been on that mission for 6 years. And we have connected hundreds of entrepreneurs. We have done a lot of things to help them raise capital, including beginning 6 new seed capital funds where local investors came together, put their money into these companies, so it doesn't have to be government money, but instead private sector money. And this is a big reason I'm running for Congress, because those principles of how do we create jobs doesn't have to rely on government money, and especially with the problems that we've seen and we've heard about this evening We know that's not the best solution. The private sector can actually do it. But it requires leadership. And leadership including in our congressional office. So it's not just casting votes, which is important, including casting votes to get lower taxes and less regulation, which is also important. But we have to create the right environment. The environment for our job creators who create companies that in turn hire people. That's how we create jobs. Many of you know that I'm running as an independent. And as an independent, I don't have a major party brand. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. And in most years, electing someone to Congress as an independent is just not something you have an option to do. This is not most years. We realize our parties have failed us. We have two candidates at the top of the ticket that have done an incredibly poor job. And right now, all of us are frustrated by that.
Mr. Bevan,
As
to wrap up.
As an independent, I have the chance to bring the parties closer together and put things back on a track of collaboration as other independents will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babinek. Next, we go to Assemblywoman Claudia Tenney, who is the Republican candidate. Press the bottom and look for the green light on the side. If you see the green light.
How about that?
Exactly.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the Chamber. Thank you for coming out as small business owners. I'm also a member of our chamber up in the Utica area. I came into politics quite by accident, actually. I am a small business owner, like many of you. My grandfather started our family business in 1946 with $100. Today, we are still located right in the heart of the New York 22nd District. We were founded in Hamilton and Norwich, and now we are in Sherburne. We're incorporated in New York. We've paid all our taxes in New York. We have employed and all of our employees here. We've also produced all the goods and services here in New York. We're still here. We're a New York-based corporation. We haven't changed. We haven't moved. We haven't done anything. But what we've done is fought against corruption, taxes, regulation, Obamacare, which has been devastating to our family business. We used to, at one point, have 80 employees. We're now down to about 67, partially because of the just ever-increasing cost of healthcare. We used to have a wonderful plan for all of our employees, which had all kinds of great extensions and benefits that we've had to tailor back. We've been forced into a partial self-insurance because of just the amazing costs. We're manufacturing. When Darola was talking about how many jobs we've lost in manufacturing, we actually are a light manufacturing company. We do pharmaceutical packaging right here in central New York. I ran for Congress because I got tired, frankly, of politicians saying we'll reduce taxes, we're going to reduce regulations, we're going to do all these things. And I said, I've got to do something. I've got to run and see if I can actually stand up for our business community. I have a 100 rating from NFIB. I've always had that. NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Business, to support our small business community because 70% of the jobs, the new jobs created in this country are created by small businesses. Now you've heard a lot of things coming out of the state. You know I'm a member of the State Assembly. I've lived the corruption in the State Assembly. And as some of them have pointed out, some of it's illegal, like Startup New York, many of the things that are part of that. The corruption, the Fort Schuyler management. Some of the corruption is actually legal. That's the biggest problem in Albany, is some of the corruption looks like it's legal. So you have this pay to play. You know, right now some people have been dragged out in handcuffs and they're facing jail sentences, like Sheldon Silver. I was the first person actually in the state to call for his resignation back in 2012. He's facing a jail sentence, and I might add, Darola, the controller actually signed the check that Sheldon Silver used to make a secret payoff deal for sexual harassment victims in the State Assembly. So not always is the controller there with us, but I'll give the controller a little credit on the Startup New York plan. He did stand up for it, and he did say that there's some problems here. And now you have Preet Bharara, the U.S. Attorney in New York City, investigating this. And that's something that's a problem for all of us as businesses. When some other business gets a subsidy, a tax credit, all those things are corporate welfare. When you're running your small business and your competitor or neighbor down the street gets millions of dollars, whether it's a tax credit, a subsidy, whatever you want to call it, to run and compete against you, that's unfair. That's government picking winners and losers. That's government getting in the middle of the mix. And that's what's going on in Albany. If you don't curry favor with certain politicians, you are not going to get anything. Your business is going to struggle. And let me tell you something, my business struggles because we don't curry favor with politicians. I'm in Albany, I'm a Republican, it's 107 to 43 in the state assembly. Sorry, DeRollo, the odds aren't great for us. But it's a struggle to run against the Democratic machine in Albany, and that's what it is. Andrew Cuomo, whether it was Hillary Clinton who promised 200,000 jobs here, this is tough. And running for Congress is about the economy, it's also about security, and it is about the corruption. And as someone who has struggled to make a payroll, have to beg on my accounts receivable list for people to pay, I don't have government jobs and government money coming into our business. You know, that's something that we have to really take seriously. Also, you know, dealing with security, and this is going to be more of our, what you do in Congress, it's one of the primary roles. I know what it's like. I raised my son as a single mother. I'm very proud to say he graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy. He's now serving as an active duty Marine. So, you know, the security issue is very important to me. What's happening in this world? What we're doing to protect our veterans, what we're doing to protect our country at the border and overseas is critically important. But again, it continues to come back to corruption and corporate welfare and picking winners and losers. And that's something I've been fighting for.
Need to wrap up.
Okay, thank you. That's something I've been fighting for in the Assembly, and I'll do that in Congress. I'm someone that's not afraid of the most powerful people in this state, and I've stood up to them. And that's why you see millions of dollars being spent to try to defeat me in this race. Thank you very much. I appreciate your vote on November 8th.
Thank you, Ms. Tenney. Now we move on to the Democratic candidate, Broome County Legislator Kim Myers.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the Chamber, but more importantly, I want to thank people who stuck around by the time we got to this end of the dais here. I'm still here, and as a matter of fact, I've always been here. I was born and raised right here in Binghamton in a family business that was just up the road a couple blocks away. My dad started a small bait and tackle shop, and my 5 siblings and I, we worked in that business our whole life. Nobody complained, we just knew that this is what we did. This is what our family did. And then when my father's health started to fail, my siblings and I bought the 2 stores from my dad. And under my brother's direction, his leadership, and his vision, we have grown that into 750 stores nationwide under Dick's Sporting Goods. And I couldn't be more proud of our family's success and all that we have achieved. We've been here, we've stayed here. This community is our home. It's my home, and it will always be my home. I've been married to my husband, Tim Myers, who runs the Dick's Sporting Goods Open professional golf tournament here every year that brings in about $12.5 million in economic impact to our community. I'm very proud of that, and like I said, he stuck with me for 36 years and 6 children. The oldest is 35 and the youngest is only 8. We've been at that for a while as well. There's one thing my father always told us when we were growing up. He always said, you never forget where you came from. This is where we came from, and this is where we are. We stay, and we employ a lot of people in New York State and across the country. I'm proud of the fact, as County Executive mentioned, that our company is also bringing 500 more jobs to the area, and we couldn't be prouder of that, to be able to do that. I'm running for Congress for a number of reasons. I know what it's like to serve the public. I know what it's like to remember where you came from. I've served on the Vestal Board of Education for 18 years, 8 of them as president. Served on the Child Hunger Task Force because I know how important that is to our youth. I can't even remember all the things that I've done. I sit on the board of directors of Lourdes Hospital, so I have a sense of what's going on in healthcare. I'm on the Binghamton City School Foundation because I know what it's like to help some of our public schools. And yes, I'm currently a Broome County legislator and I'm a minority leader. I'm running because I know that this is a great place. And I'm actually not doom and gloom. We have a lot of exciting things that are happening here in Broome County. We have great things and great potential. We are just on the cusp, and we need good leadership to make that happen. I'm running because I know it requires that leadership and it requires a skill set. It requires somebody that knows about business, knows about education, and it knows about bringing jobs, and it knows about helping people. I have many, many blessings in my life. I won't doubt that, and I won't take it for granted for 1 minute. One of the biggest blessings I have is I am the product of a quality public school education. I've still been in touch with my 8th grade teacher who taught US history. And I can tell you where I was sitting in the classroom when she told us, this government of the United States only works if you participate. It's a participatory government. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what I want to do, is participate. I know there's a lot of things that need to be done, and I'm the one that can help us do it. I know for firsthand what we need is infrastructure. That's been talked about a lot around here. Our airport. Our airport has been a problem for a long time. We need to improve the infrastructure, and that will bring jobs to our area. As someone who's lived here my whole life, and I'm sorry about this because I get, I also know what businesses need. One of the things that businesses need is, due to the Big Bang's debacle in 08 and 09, we have such restriction on credit and on cash. We need for small businesses to loosen up that credit, to make that available to them. When I was growing up in our family business, there was 3 things that were talked about around the dinner table. One was the weather, because that affected our business all the time. If it was hot, we sold golf clubs. If it was cold, we sold boots and gloves. But the other thing was, how are the New York Giants doing? That was very important to us. But the other thing that I remember as a child that's always being talked about is, how much did we pay down on the note? How much were we able to pay off on our credit? Because I knew fundamentally in growing that business that credit was not only crucial to our growth, it was crucial to our survival. That's one of the things. Thank you. So I'm running for Congress from the New York 22nd, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
All right, our first question from the Chamber for our congressional candidates has to do with the global economy. Now, a region with significant strategic value, such as Silicon Valley or New York City, can overcome overregulation and excess costs, but ultimately, it would require a combination of more competitive costs and regulations, along with improving the strategic value of the Southern Tier to be successful. How well prepared, in your opinion, is upstate New York for worldwide competition, and what changes need to be made? And we will start with Ms. Tenney.
Thank you. Actually, it's an interesting question because we think that we have to choose jobs that are only in the high-tech sector. What we really need are regular jobs for regular people. We have a middle class that's disappearing. And the middle class is disappearing because we've actually put through a lot of bad trade deals. I mean, trade deals that have been poorly negotiated, like NAFTA, which Bill Clinton brought us. The TPP, which is hanging on edge, whether or not Congress is going to pass that or not this year. I'm living proof. My business, our family business, which is Mid-York Press, it's in Sherwood, New York, we lost business because of a trade deal with Mexico. So one of our key customers moved to Mexico, and we lost that customer, and thus lost a huge, a lot of jobs for our employees. We had to lay people off as a direct result of a deal that was not fair to the sovereignty of the United States, didn't protect a lot of the protections we need as businesses that are trying to compete in the most business-unfriendly state in the country. And again, what we have to do is reduce taxes. I have a bill in the state assembly. I will sponsor a bill in Congress to reduce the income tax. The centerpiece of all the successful states in the country and the nation is to reduce the personal income tax. That's where most of the income tax gains are going to be. Corporate taxes also need to be reduced to make us business friendly. But right now, regulations, of course we have massive regulations. Obamacare is a huge burden that we're putting on our small business owners. But we do have the ability to do manufacturing jobs. We do have many great programs for the trades to restore our trades. We have many people who aren't going to go to college. Thank you. They aren't going to go to college, but they're going to work in the trades. They're going to use their skills in a way that's doing manufacturing. And you have wonderful manufacturing actually right here in Broome County that I've seen. We can grow, and we have people to do those jobs. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Myers.
Thank you very much, and I agree. We have a burdensome taxes, regulation, and on a federal level, we have to decide what we can do. We, as a congressional candidate, you really can't do anything on a state level, although some of our other colleagues, hopefully, they will address that. Education is, I think, the key to everything. We need to look at our education and make sure that we're aligning the skill sets of the jobs of the future with our with our educational opportunities for students. We've gone, and we call it in our business, we've gone from one ditch to the other ditch. We've gone to, and I'm dating myself, so that when we grew up, that very rarely, or it was kind of special if you went to college and got a 4-year degree. Now we've gone to the other ditch where every single person must graduate from high school and get a 4-year degree, or they're not deemed as cutting the grade, or it's not good enough. And that's not true. I've talked to a lot of manufacturers in our area, International Paper, and Raymond Corporation, that they have skills that they need from their workers that don't require a 4-year degree. And we need to make sure that we partner those with those jobs, and they are good middle-class jobs. That's what I would propose. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Babinek.
I certainly agree with my colleagues that a more business-friendly environment would absolutely make a difference. Less regulation and lower taxes are truly something we would like to have. At the state level, we also know that the tail is wagged by the dog in terms of what happens out in New York City, where there's more votes than there are upstate. And that's one of the reasons we have the dilemma that we have at the state level. And at the federal level, while working hard to reduce regulation and reduce taxes is something I'm committed to, I still believe that when it comes to the opportunity to take advantage of our ingredients right here, our smart people, our terrific education system, our high quality of life, we are waving goodbye to far too many good people than we need to. We have the ingredients we need, and it is a matter of overcoming these barriers of the unfriendly business environment so that we can create an environment that allows people to start companies here, not just small businesses, which are important in terms of providing local services, but the barriers to entry to create these companies and these new industries have never been lower. This is why so many people who go to school here, grow up here, and then move someplace else to start a company, they're going someplace else because they don't find it easy for them to get connected to the right resources here that they could actually do their business here. That's what I'm working hard to change, and as your congressman, I can help bring that about much faster.
All right, thank you. This will be my last question from the chamber, and then after that we'll take a look at some of the questions you've come up with. But this one has to do with the Affordable Care Act and its effectiveness, and what sort of effect do you think it's had on business? And we'll start with Ms. Myers.
Thank you very much. There is no doubt that the Affordable Health Care Act has problems. It has big problems. But do I believe fundamentally that in the United States of America, every person should have access to quality, affordable health care? I do. I fundamentally do. And I believe that this requires people to get back to the table, find out what's working, what's not working. It has been problematic for businesses, there's no doubt about it. But there are other people who have been helped by it. So let's get to the table, and quite frankly, as a potential member of Congress, I really don't care if any idea is a Democratic idea or Republican idea. If it's an idea that makes sense, if it's an idea that we can work together and hammer out, that's what we're elected to do. And that's what I would propose on the Affordable Health Care Act. I have said this also, if we go back to the table and craft something that makes sense and works for everybody, and you want to call it something else because it'll be more palatable, then do it. But we just need to get to the table, put the partisan aside, stop folding our arms, stomping our feet, and refusing to budge, and get something done, because that's what we're supposed to do.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Mr. Babinek.
A company that my wife and I started today buys benefits for more than 13,000 small to mid-sized companies across the U.S. And as a result, I've really come to appreciate the difficulties in that. And when the Affordable Care Act was being put together, I spent a lot of time in Washington fighting it because I could see it was going to be a big problem. It has not delivered even its title to make benefits more affordable, make healthcare more affordable. It certainly has not. There are lots of problems with it. And as we think about changes that need to be made, certainly we want to bring down costs and we want to increase the amount of choice. Because we know when we buy things, the more competition there are, when we're looking at making a purchase from different providers. That's how you bring down costs. Today, we're in a situation where you can't cross state lines and maybe buy a certain insurance policy that would meet your needs someplace else. So one of my first and highest priorities in healthcare is increase the amount of choice you have, both at a consumer level and a business level, and to realize that the requirements that we've laid on businesses today are actually tremendously damaging for especially our smaller businesses that don't have the scale, don't have the ability to administer the requirements, and are getting to the point where they're actually reducing the number of people that are eligible for healthcare benefits, which is exactly opposite of what the law was intended.
All right, thank you, Mr. Babinek. Next, Ms. Tenney.
Thank you. Look, let's be straightforward about this. The Affordable Health Care Act was passed along completely partisan lines. Not a single Republican elected officer in Congress, in the House or Senate, voted for Obamacare. It is the Democrats, it's Obama who created this. It has been devastating to our small business community. It's been devastating now to our school districts with the Cadillac tax, which is another tax that's going to be imposed. We definitely need to, I think, get rid of it and start over. We had one of the greatest healthcare systems in the world that we destroyed with Obamacare because people want to go back to a single-payer system. I think we can do this, of course, by providing choice, by providing a consumer-driven model, by providing risk pools. Let the small business community, the large business community, let the people who are experts in this area take care of this type of thing. It should not be a big government albatross because it is failing. It is crumbling in New York State. The healthcare exchanges are imploding. It was not passed by the legislature. The assembly passed it. I voted against it, of course. But the governor did it with an executive order. That's how incredibly dangerous this is. So it's something that we need to start over with. We need to have choices, of course. Again, I said that it has to be a consumer-driven model where you can go and you can decide what's good for you. I don't really want to pay for healthcare for somebody else. I think with the risk pool aspect of it, you can provide and make sure everyone with a pre-existing disease of any kind, anyone who needs access to healthcare, especially the poor and needy, who who Medicaid programs are designed for, can have access to those. But let me tell you something, because of Obamacare, so many people have been forced onto the Medicaid rolls, and I know there are a couple of members of the state assembly at the other end that know how enormous the state budget is right now with this federal program. When I started in the assembly, it was about $48 billion a year out of the budget, Medicaid. It is now over $60 billion a year and growing. And we can't afford to do this any longer. It's not fair to our business community. It's not fair to our taxpayers. And we're not giving people their choices. They aren't getting to see their doctor. They're losing their health care. This should be about doctors and patients, not about insurance companies and government dictating who gets what. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tenney. All right, so I've got just a small handful of cards because it was determined that some of the questions that came out early